Welcome to thevisionarywoman.com.
So I've met people that have moved to Los Angeles and have been living with one breast or no breast for 20 years.
Wow.
Never knew that the general surgeons are the ones that do the mastectomy portion of the procedure, and then they sort of have to educate their patients and say, hey, you can go to a plastic surgeon, it's covered by your insurance, and you can actually have your reconstruction performed. But a lot of people say, oh, she's old, or she's 70. It doesn't matter if she gets reconstructed. Where even a 70-year-old is really young these days, and they deserve to have the option and the knowledge to know that a reconstruction is possible. I would say it's gotten a lot better, and there's certain initiatives like Broad Day, where it's breast reconstruction awareness, that we're doing to sort of educate, even in 2015, educate people that, hey, this is an option and you can have reconstruction and you've got reconstruction on your left side. And now this one's perky and this one's bigger and it's sagging. The insurance will pay to have that one lifted and even a breast implant in order to get them to match. So there's implant-based reconstruction, and then there's what we call autologous breast reconstruction, which is basically using your own tissue to reconstruct your breast. And there's pros and cons with each of them. So let's start with the breast implant-based reconstruction. So what happens during the mastectomy portion of the procedure, and it depends what kind of mastectomy. Can they save the nipple? Can they not save the nipple? How much skin needs to be removed? If it's just a very small tumor and it's not close to the nipple, we can usually just put a breast implant right away and people are done. But that's a very specific patient with a not very not very aggressive tumor, small tumor, not close to the nipple areolar complex. Those people it can just be as easy as one surgery and you're reconstructed and you're done. Other people, when more tissue's taken out or the nipple and the areola are taken out, there isn't as much skin in order to reconstruct, so they'll place something like a balloon. It's called a tissue expander, and it's placed underneath the pectoralis muscle in order to expand it over time. Usually 3 to 6 months to expand that skin in order to then be able to put an implant in. These kinds of reconstructions are typically done with patients that don't need radiation, because radiation really affects the skin and makes it woody and makes it not heal normally.
Wow.
And typically with radiation, we want to use your own tissue, your own blood that has some blood supply. It's not a dead implant, so that it can actually help resist infection. Let's say the skin doesn't heal well and it breaks down. If there's an implant right there, the implant's going to get infected. But if it's your own tissue with good blood supply, it's going to fight infection because it has blood supply, and we have cells that fight infection in our blood. In the last maybe 5 to 10 years, it was very controversial because, as you know, fat, everybody's talking about stem cells and fat, and they were saying, can we reconstruct a breast with just fat? And they were saying, well, this is it had cancer in it. Should we be putting stem cells in a place where cancer used to be? But now over time, more research has been done. It's actually proving to be rather safe. So some surgeons now will actually do multiple fat transfers if somebody wants a very small breast and they have an opposite breast that's very small. You can actually do multiple fat transfers, and that is an option as well. The other options are, some people that need a tummy tuck. They can actually use that skin and fat from the abdomen, bring it up on a couple of a vein and an artery, and attach that vein and artery to a couple vein and arteries that run underneath your sternum, and then create a hanging breast. If the other breast has a lot of skin and this one has had a lot of skin taken out, we can actually reconstruct and bring skin up from the abdomen. So you're kind of getting a tummy tuck look. It's a little higher incision than the tummy tuck. It's right under your belly button rather than really low.
Right.
But still, for somebody to get a smaller, flatter abdomen and a breast reconstructed at the same time, and not having to say, oh, I have a foreign body, that's very attractive to some people. Now, that's a much longer surgery, it's a longer hospital stay, but then you don't have to come in and get the balloon expanded. So it's really, a personal decision for each and every person. People do have a pannus. They have a lot of skin on their belly. They have that pooch. And to be able to bring up all that skin and use it to create a hanging breast to match the other side, that's really when that option is a really good option, when you just are missing so much skin that there's no way that you can match your opposite breast without bringing up skin. And then there's a kind of an option in between where we use the muscle in your back, your latissimus, and the overlying skin. and we put an implant, and then we bring that muscle and skin and add a little bit of skin and cover that implant. That's another option as well. So that's kind of a mixing of the two. So these are the main three options. There's a lot of different ways. Some people have had their saddlebags used to recreate their breast. There's a lot of things that have been, or even, you know, fat and skin from the buttocks, or just below the buttocks. There's a lot of different options, but those are the main three. Either, you know, expansion and then a breast implant, using the stomach fat and skin as a free flap, or pedicled, meaning we keep it on its blood supply and just swing it up, and using the latissimus with a breast implant underneath. Those are your main three options. Free flap, as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of scars on the breast. And that's really your best option for radiated breast. You're bringing in healthy tissue from someplace that, you know, radiation is basically like a burn. So you're bringing in healthy tissue. You can expect scars on the breast initially. Scars, as you know, they can be darker, they can be pink for up to a year, really. And the best thing for scars in general is to keep them out of the sun so that they heal as close to your own skin color as possible.
Okay.
So, you know, each of them have different recovery times, and each of them have different hospital stay times. But, you know, we have great medicine to help with pain. And it really, when people start out on this journey, they have to know, you know, it's going to be 2 to 4 surgeries minimum. It really is a journey. Yeah. You can't, you know, with everything in life, as you know yourself, you have to enjoy the journey, and you have to say, what is God trying to teach me here? Or what's the learning point in this? You can't say, oh, when am I going to be done? When am I going to be done? You really have to say, maybe I need to slow down at work. Maybe I should stop and smell the roses. Maybe I should travel more. It's just, you know, for a lot of my patients, it's a wake-up call. And you just have to somehow find the light at the end of the tunnel and say, you know, I trust in my doctors, I trust in, you know, a higher being, and I have to take away from this good, even though it's a really hard, you know, wrench in my life. I just have to, you know, sort of say, this is my journey. I know it's going to be, let's say, 4 surgeries, maybe even 5 surgeries, you know, little touch-up surgeries. The first couple are the biggest ones, and then really, you know, you want to touch it up and make it look good. The other thing that I can give as advice to patients is I have found that, especially with this kind of surgery, they feel like they've lost control. And when they focus on the minutia differences between each of their breasts, because I think personally that it gives them a sense of control. For example, we had one patient that said, you know, when I wear a lace bra, this breast fills it out down here on, you know, around 5 o'clock, but this one doesn't completely fill it out around 5 o'clock. But you just had a mastectomy and you have a breast and it looks pretty good and you're wearing a lace bra. So I tell patients, you know, they're sisters, they're not twins. They weren't perfectly symmetric when you started out, and they're not going to be perfectly symmetric now. So you just have to be okay with, you know, little asymmetries and giving up a little bit of control, even though you feel like your life is spinning out of control. There's a lot of psych involved in that. So vitamin E is actually hurtful to scars, and I know it's very common, and grandma tells you to put vitamin E on everything. So what vitamin E does is it actually weakens collagen cross-linking, and so what it does is it gives you a flat scar, but it gives you a wide scar. So all these C-section scars that are wide, and everybody's been putting vitamin E on them, yeah, they're flat, but they're like this wide. Because there's no strength in the collagen, there's no strength in the scar. So I hate vitamin E. And not to mention that, it can be very irritating to skin. So a lot of people, it looks like they're red or have a rash when they're using vitamin E. So nobody use vitamin E. Not good. Cocoa butter has actually been studied in Turkey, a very good randomized controlled trial on stretch marks, where they actually put cocoa butter on one side and then just put a regular lotion on the other side, and it didn't do anything either. So I know it smells good and it's hydrating, but it actually does nothing for scarring or stretch marks. The things that have been proven, like I mentioned earlier, staying out of the sun for a complete year. Wow. Because sun makes us tan, right? It produces melanin, and when you have a scar, those cells that produce pigment are on hyperdrive, and when you give them sun, they're going to even produce even more pigment, and that's why we end up healing darker on our scars than the surrounding skin. So keeping it out of the sun for a full year is very important with any scar. The other things that have some research behind them are silicone. So whether it's a silicone gel or silicone sheeting, those help prevent hypertrophic and thick scarring as well.
Wow.
So those two things are, and probably, also taking tension off of the scar. There's a new scar therapy that when you place the dressing, it actually squeezes the skin together and takes tension off of the scar so that you don't get widening of your scar. So I'd say those three things actually have some data behind them. Everything else does not, and it's a very lucrative business that takes advantage of people's ignorance.
TheVisionaryWoman.com. Watch our host of insightful video exchange interviews. Listen to the Visionary Woman Hotspot Talk Radio to empower your evenings and read fascinating articles of inspiration and perseverance, all with you in mind. Visit us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.